Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are starting to speak about the adjective. In this video we'll learn what types of adjectives we have in English, what their grammatical characteristics are, and what roles they can perform in a sentence. So let us start. What is the adjective? The adjective is a word that expresses a quality of a noun it modifies. For instance, in the word combination a beautiful garden, beautiful is an adjective. It characterizes the word garden. It tells us what kind of garden we are dealing with. In the word combination an awe-inspiring masterpiece, awe-inspiring is an adjective, and it also answers the question what kind of masterpiece? An awe-inspiring masterpiece. In a sentence, the adjective may be used as an attribute or as a predicative. Let's take a look. Mike has a dangerous job. In this sentence, the adjective dangerous functions as an attribute. It characterizes the word job, so it is its attribute. In this sentence, this place is dangerous. Dangerous is a part of the compound predicate. The compound predicate in this sentence consists of the verb to be, which is in our case, and dangerous, which functions as the predicative. Most adjectives may take adverbial modifiers of degree. His new car is very expensive, or her outfit is somewhat strange. Another important thing to mention is that in English, adjectives do not change for number or case. Their only grammatical category is the degree of comparison. That's why we can say it's a nice watch, but we cannot say these are nice as watches. That's incorrect. We should say these are nice watches. Unlike in some other languages, if your noun is in plural, that doesn't mean that the adjective that characterizes it should also be in plural. Adjectives in English do not change for number. However, English adjectives have degrees of comparison. Let's see. His watch is nice. That's the positive form. My watch is nicer. That's the comparative form. And this is the nicest watch I've ever seen. This is the superlative form. We'll talk about the degrees of comparison of adjectives in more detail in a separate video. Today, let's talk about what types of adjectives we have and where we can find them in a sentence, what syntactic functions they have. We'll be speaking about several different classifications of adjectives, and we'll start with the types of adjectives according to their morphological composition, according to how they are formed. So here we'll be speaking about simple adjectives. These are adjectives that have neither prefixes nor suffixes. Examples of such adjectives are little, yellow, nice. Derivative adjectives. These are adjectives that have derivative elements, such as suffixes and prefixes. For example, wonderful, reliable, irregular. These adjectives have either a suffix or a prefix or both. For example, I can add the prefix "un" to the adjective reliable, and thus we will have unreliable. Now this word will have a prefix "un" and the suffix "able." And the last type here is compound adjectives. Compound adjectives are built of two or more stems. For example, four-willed, cold-blooded, fox-eyed, and so on and so forth. These adjectives are hyphenated. Everything is more or less clear with simple adjectives. Let's talk about derivative and compound adjectives in detail. So we'll start with derivative adjectives. As I have already said, derivative adjectives have affixes, that is, suffixes or prefixes, or both. We can divide adjective forming affixes into two groups, productive and unproductive. By productive affixes, we mean those affixes that have an ability to form new words. By non-productive affixes, we mean affixes that don't have that possibility. These affixes are considered to be separate morphemes and have their clear meaning. This division in productive and unproductive affixes is, though, not fixed. During different periods of the history of the language, some affixes may possess those qualities of productive suffixes and prefixes, whereas others will lose them, and vice versa. So currently we can say that the following suffixes are productive: less, like, ish, id, or d, al, or ar. Productive prefixes are un and pre. Unproductive suffixes are full, able, ant, an, os, and some. Unproductive prefixes are in, ir, im, and ill. Actually, it's the same prefix that changes depending on what letter the word starts with. For instance, we say irregular, illiterate, or illegal, immortal. We'll talk about that in detail a little bit later today. So we add the suffixes and prefixes to other parts of the speech, mostly to nouns, to form different adjectives. Let's see how it works. Let's take a look at less, for example. Less means deprived of or lacking something. For instance, we have the noun emotion. We can add less to the noun emotion and we'll get an adjective that means lacking emotions or deprived of any emotion. Emotionless. We have motion and we can add less to motion and we'll get the adjective motionless, that is, not moving or lacking any motion. Use, useless, having no use or deprived of any useful qualities or characteristics. Brain, brainless, literally deprived of a brain or stupid. Thought, thoughtless, not thinking. The suffix full has an opposite meaning. It is full of certain quality. Similarly, we'll take a noun, add the prefix full to it, and we'll receive an adjective that will tell us that something is full of this quality. Hope, hopeful, care, careful, use, useful, skill, skillful, beauty, beautiful. Pay attention to the change of the vowels. Y is changed into I. The suffix os means marked by certain quality. For instance, glory, glorious, victory, victorious, hazard, hazardous, joy, joyous, adventure, adventurous. The suffix al means related to a particular thing. By the way, if the root word contains the letter L, we use another variant of this suffix, which is R. Culture, cultural, music, musical, universe, universal, region, regional, column, columnar. One of the most interesting suffixes that can help us form adjectives is the suffix ish. Ish means similar to, of the nature of something. For example, child, childish. Fool, foolish, nightmare, nightmarish, book, bookish, and style, stylish. Childish means like a child, similar to a child, behaving like a child, and so on and so forth. Foolish, respectively, means behaving like a fool. Nightmarish means similar to a nightmare. Bookish means like in a book. Stylish means having style. This suffix is quite popular in colloquial English and is used to speak about something that has approximate quality. Let's take a look at this dialogue, for instance. How old is he? He's 50-ish. That's he is approximately 50. Or this one. How's the weather like? Well, it's hottish. It's not particularly hot, but it's hottish. Let's also take a look at this example. This Dave is so arrogant and standoffish. Of course, you can use the suffix with gradable adjectives like hot or cold. You can say hottish or coldish. But as you see from these examples, you can add it to many things, like in the first or in the third example. Let's take a look at some prefixes now. For instance, the unproductive suffix un is added to an adjective that characterizes a noun to show that this noun is deprived of a particular quality, deprived of a quality that this adjective expresses. So un means not something, not having something. Able, unable, kind, unkind, desirable, undesirable, fortunate, unfortunate, dressed, undressed. So if able means potent, having some power or ability, unable means deprived of that power, unable to do something, for example. Kind and unkind. Yeah? If kind basically means good, compassionate, nice, yeah, all those things. Unkind means all the opposite things. The same with the rest of these examples. Now let's take a look at in, ir, im, il. Basically, they are one prefix. The letter changes depending on the first letter of the stem that it is added to. In, ir, im, il means not. So we have the adjective regular, and by adding ir to it, we'll get irregular, that is not regular. Responsible, irresponsible, mortal, immortal, mature, immature, patient, impatient, legal, illegal, logical, illogical, correct, incorrect, accurate, inaccurate. As you see, these prefixes completely change the meaning of the root word to the opposite. You can spot a pattern here. If the first letter of the stem is R, the prefix is ir. If the first letter of the stem is M, the prefix is im. If it's L, the prefix is il, and in is used for the rest of the letters except the letter P, because P is also preceded by im. When choosing between un and in, though, you'd better consult a good dictionary, because we say inaccurate but unable, right? Adjectives ending in ing deserve some additional attention. These adjectives describe something that causes emotions. We receive these adjectives by adding this ending, ing, to a verb. For instance, to amuse, amusing, to frighten, frightening, to interest, interesting, to confuse, confusing. So these adjectives mostly describe the thing that causes some emotions. Yeah, an amusing film, or an interesting story, or a confusing question, so on and so forth. Also, they speak about applications of something, of where a noun characterized by such an adjective is used. Examples: to steer, steering, like in a steering wheel, for example, a wheel which is used for steering. To wash, washing, like in a washing liquid. To walk, walking, like in a walking stick, a stick that is used to walk with. To cleanse, cleansing, a cleansing gel, for example. We should also keep in mind that verbals, such as the gerund and participle one, also end in ing. I speak about the gerund and participle 1 and 2 in these videos, so you can follow the links in the description to this lesson if you want to check that information. Unlike the adjectives ending in ing, verbals that end in ing describe actions in the process. So compare the above-mentioned words with these three examples. To help, helping, the one that helps or the one that is in the act of helping. To flood, flooding, the one that is flooding something. To explain, explaining, the one that is in the process of explaining something. You can only tell a verbal from an ing adjective looking at the context. Judging by the context, we can say whether we are dealing with a verbal or with an ing adjective. So adjectives are about states, emotions, applications, all those things that characterize our noun. Verbals are about processes, about actions. As I have said, sometimes only the context can tell us what we are dealing with. A verbal, participle one, or a gerund, or an adjective. Let's see. He's helping me around the house. What are we dealing with in this sentence? We are dealing with participle one. Participle one here helps us form the present progressive tense. He is helping. He gave us a helping hand. What kind of hand did he give us? A helping hand. Helping is an adjective in this sentence. Helping my friend to move to a new place, I learned a few things about their life I hadn't known before. In this case, helping is participle one. Doing what? Helping my friend to move to a new place is a participial construction. More examples. She likes explaining things to her students. What are we dealing with in this sentence? We are dealing with a gerund. She likes what? Explaining things to her students. You remember, gerunds function as nouns. Explaining the rules of the game, I made one crucial mistake. Doing what? Explaining the rules of the game. Participle one. We cannot use explaining as an adjective. Let's see. This is an explaining example. The sentence doesn't make sense. We should say this is an example that explains everything. Now, adjectives ending in ik and ikal also deserve additional attention. Though the suffixes ik and ikal are very similar, they often have different meanings. The suffix ik means that something is related to a certain process or thing. The suffix ikal is usually interchangeable with the suffix ik, but sometimes with specialized sense. Let's take a look at two adjectives, politic and political. Political means connected to politics, and politic means sensible, wise, diplomatic, things like that. Let's see. The leaders of two countries discussed political and economic relations. The main political parties are in complete agreement on this issue. Definitely we are speaking about politics in these sentences, right? Political parties, political decisions. But let's take a look at these examples. It seemed politic to say nothing in that situation. If you had been more politic, you would have managed to persuade them to take your side. In these sentences, we can replace the word politic with the word wise or diplomatic. The same situation will be with the words classic and classical, historic and historical. If you want me to make additional video about those adjectives, please let me know in the comments. We'll go further now, and as we have already discussed derivative adjectives, now let's take a look at compound adjectives, the third type of adjectives we were talking about. Compound adjectives are adjectives built from two or more stems. These stems can be very different, so they can be in different parts of speech. For instance, we can have a noun stem and an adjective stem, like in the adjectives brand new, snow white, pitch dark, so on and so forth. We can have a noun and a participle, for example, sun-dried, homemade, life-given. We can have two adjectives combined into one, like deaf-mute. We can have an adjective plus a noun plus a suffix, cold-hearted or absent-minded or middle-aged. A compound adjective can also be made up of two noun stems, bulletproof or waterproof. It also can be made up of two nouns plus a suffix, like almond-eyed. A numeral and a noun can also form an adjective, like with four-wheel or second-hand or 10th century. And also compound adjectives can be formed of an adverb and a participle, like well-known, brightly lit, undercooked, and overpopulated, for example. A special case of compound adjectives is when you use a numeral to form a compound adjective. A very important thing to remember: to form compound adjectives, numerals must be combined with nouns in the singular. not in the plural. So we had a 2-hour meeting with the client, not hours. So we are speaking about 2 hours, of course. We say 2-hour meeting. It's a 10-minute walk from the train station. So we spent 10 minutes to get to the train station. It was a 10-minute walk. They put a 50-liter aquarium in the living room. Her parents own a 30-acre farm. It's a 900-page book. I haven't finished reading it yet. He bought a 32-inch monitor. The office is on the 15th floor of a 40-floor building. They have a 3-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. Not years, not olds, but 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 55-year-old, and so on and so forth. And we ordered a 6½ foot tall banner. Now let's take a look at some special hyphenated adjectives. So when you have several words coming before a noun that characterize this noun, they function as an attribute of this noun, so as an adjective. You need to write all those words via the hyphen. Otherwise, if you don't do that, if you write those words separately, the idea of your sentence might not be clear. Let's take a look at the adjective state of the art. It's not an occasional combination of words, it's an established adjective. You can find it in any English dictionary. But when these words are written via the hyphen, they are an adjective. If you write them separately, that will be a noun. Let's see. State of the art is a noun. What is the state of the art, for example? And it's a state-of-the-art design. State of the art in this sentence is an adjective that characterizes the word design. You can do that with any nouns and not only with nouns. Let's see. Off campus, double-sided, wishy-washy, top of the line, never ending, out of the way, born again, blue collar, brand new. Though when such compound adjectives follow a noun, that also can happen. An adjective can also be used after a noun. So in this case, the hyphen is not obligatory. For example, we say this is an off-campus apartment, but my apartment is off-campus. Though some established compound nouns are always hyphenated. Some established compound adjectives that are always hyphenated are devil may care, like in devil may care attitude, for example. Happy-go-lucky, you can say the same happy-go-lucky attitude, or over the top, like in over the top character. Larger than life, like in larger than life personality. All in one, like all in one printer. All you can eat, like in all you can eat restaurant. All year round, like in all year round resort. Holier than thou, like in holier than thou approach. If you want me to make an additional lesson about hyphenated adjectives, please let me know in the comment section down below. Apart from that, some things should be said about hyphenated prefixes. There are prefixes that we always hyphenate, of course with some exceptions, but still. We hyphenate all adjectives with prefixes self and all. Self-assured, self-confident, self-made, self-righteous, self-satisfied, all-knowing, almighty, all-inclusive, all-purpose, all-consuming, all-weather, so on and so forth. The prefix non is usually, but not always, hyphenated. For example, we say non-negotiable, non-racist, non-binary, non-compliant, but non-existent, non-flammable, non-partisan, non-resident. The prefixes anti and pro are usually hyphenated, though there are exceptions. We say anti-social, anti-inflammatory, anti-seborrheic, pro-natalist, pro-western, pro-business, but antifungal or proactive. Speaking about pro, the idea here is that we use the hyphen when the meaning of the prefix is in favor of, like in pro-business, for example. Otherwise, we don't use the hyphen, like in the word proactive, for instance. Again, if you want to make sure whether the word is hyphenated or not, consult a dictionary. Though we usually do not hyphenate suffixes, there are also some exceptions. Suffixes that are always hyphenated. The suffixes are style, free, and based. For example, sugar-free, caffeine-free, alcohol-free, gender-based, class-based, ground-based, oil-based, Gothic style, modernist style, Greek style, and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about a different classification of adjectives. We can also classify adjectives according to their meaning and grammatical characteristics. Here we'll be speaking about qualitative and relative adjectives. So qualitative adjectives denote qualities of a noun directly, not through its relation to another noun. Here we speak about such qualities as size, color, shape, and some general qualities as well. For instance, these are adjectives like high, strong, green, important, and so on and so forth. Relative adjectives denote qualities of a noun through its relation to materials, to places, time, and actions. For instance, silken, European, monthly, rotary. They are relative because they are related to something else, to some material quality, and so on and so forth. Again, let's speak separately about qualitative adjectives and about relative adjectives. So, grammatical characteristics of qualitative adjectives are: most qualitative adjectives have degrees of comparison. So you can say light, lighter, the lightest. Expensive, more expensive, the most expensive. Some qualitative adjectives, though, don't have those degrees of comparison because you cannot compare them. For instance, if something is greenish, green and greenish are qualitative adjectives, but how can we compare something that is greenish to something else, which is also greenish? Yeah, that's impossible. Then qualitative adjectives have typical suffixes such as full, less, os, able, ish, and e. For example, careful, motionless, dangerous, comfortable, stylish, glittery, and so on and so forth. From most of qualitative adjectives, adverbs can be formed by the suffix -ly. So you just add -ly to the adjective and you receive an adverb. Careful, carefully, dangerous, dangerously, stylish, stylishly. And most qualitative adjectives can be used attributively and predicatively. Let's take a look. Laura has a white cat. The qualitative adjective white is used here as an attribute of the noun cat. A little garden lay behind the house. Again, the qualitative adjective little is used as an attribute of the noun garden. This wonderful story was written by Sam's brother. Wonderful is used as an attribute of the word story. Jane's husband is bald. Here, the qualitative adjective bold is used as a predicative. Is bald is a compound predicate. Anyone literate can do this. So here we use our adjective after the subject as a post-modifier. It is still an attribute of anyone. The dinner at that restaurant was expensive. The qualitative adjective expensive is used as a predicative. It is a part of a compound predicate was expensive. It is obvious that they won't be interested in our proposal. Again, interested is a predicative in this situation. That the renovation must be done this year is completely clear. We have an inversion in this sentence. Still, clear belongs to a compound predicate. It's completely clear. So it's a predicative here. What about the grammatical characteristics of relative adjectives? Relative adjectives have no degrees of comparison. Look at these adjectives and you'll see why. Synthetic, socialist, woolen, wooden, Australian, Danish. How can something be more or less Australian? Only jokingly, yeah, but actually all of these adjectives, they are not comparable. They have no degrees of comparison. Normally, they do not form adverbs with the suffix -ly, unless they are used figuratively. For example, we say woolen, but we cannot say woolenly. We cannot form an adverb of the adjective woolen with the help of the suffix -ly. But I can say Danish and Danishly when I speak figuratively about the way Danish people live. Let's look at this book, The Year of Living Danishly. Yeah? Relative adjectives have certain typical suffixes such as an, ist, ich, and ical. And relative adjectives are mostly used attributively. Let's see. We have bought a nice wooden table for the dining room. Wooden is a relative adjective and it is used as an attribute of the word table. English is an analytical language. Again, analytical is an attribute of the word language. The Communist Party won't let it happen. Communist is a relative adjective that is used as an attribute of the noun party. Luca lives in a small Italian town. Italian is a relative adjective that is used attributively here and it characterizes the noun town. Have you ever seen the Northern Lights? Northern is a relative adjective that characterizes the noun lights. So in all of these examples, our relative adjectives are attributes. Now let's look at two more examples. Patrick's wife is American. Here, the relative adjective American is used predicatively. It is a predicative, a part of a compound predicate is American. And the same is in this sentence. The weather today is sunny. Sunny is a relative adjective that is used predicatively. Another classification of adjectives is dividing them into gradable and non-gradable adjectives. Adjectives can be divided into gradable and non-gradable. Gradable adjectives can change for degrees of comparison, as well as be modified by adverbs of degree. And non-gradable adjectives do not admit comparison at all because of their meaning. The majority of adjectives in English, though, are gradable. Let's see. This place is so beautiful. Beautiful is a gradable adjective. You can be more beautiful than somebody else. The music is extremely loud. This party is loud and that party is extremely loud. It's the loudest party I've been to. The box is too heavy. I can't lift it. So in these three examples, we see adverbs before our adjectives that express degree of something. This room is bigger than that one. Here, the adjective bigger is used in its comparative degree. And it's the least of my worries. The adjective little is used in its superlative degree. The least of my worries, yeah? Now let's look at some non-gradable adjectives. For instance, you cannot say, my glass is emptier than yours. That doesn't make much sense. What you should say is, my glass has less wine or less juice than yours. Then you cannot say it's the perfectest place for a summer vacation. That's a ridiculous sentence. If something is perfect, it's already the best, yeah? So perfect is a non-gradable adjective. You should say it's a perfect or the best place for a summer vacation. Finally, let's talk about syntactic functions of adjectives. That is, what functions adjectives perform in a sentence. In a sentence, the adjective may be used as an attribute, as a predicative, as part of a compound verbal predicate, as an objective or subjective predicate, and independently. Let's start with the first function. Adjectives can be used as attributes. Examples: a nice little secretary stood in front of the window. Two adjectives are used in a row here before the noun they characterize. Secretary, by the way, is not a secretary, it's a piece of furniture. The windows were draped with heavy curtains. The adjective heavy characterizes the word curtains and is used attributively before it. How do nocturnal animals navigate in the dark? Nocturnal means living predominantly at night, active predominantly at night, and it characterizes the word animals in this sentence. It is used as an attribute of the noun animals. We are looking for a bigger apartment to rent. Bigger is a comparative form of the adjective big. Here it is used as an attribute of the noun apartment. And white as a sheet, she appeared on our porch. This sentence contains a loose attribute that characterizes the pronoun she. Let's take a look at more examples with loose attributes. First and foremost, what should we understand by a loose attribute? Normally, adjectives as attributes are used right in front of the noun they characterize. This is true for permanent characteristics of something. But sometimes when we speak about some temporary characteristic or about a situation or a temporary state of something or somebody, we can separate the attribute from the noun, place the description of the noun at the beginning of the sentence or put it to the end of the sentence and separate it with a comma. This happens in our example, white as a sheet, she appeared on our porch. We are speaking about a particular situation. The adjective white is not her permanent characteristic, but rather a temporary state she was in. So this whole description of her, white as a sheet, is separated with a comma, and the word white itself is somewhat torn from she. Yeah, it's not close to the noun that it characterizes, but somewhere there. So that's why we call it a loose attribute. Another example, unable to stay in their country anymore, they struggle to find a new place to live. What does the word unable characterize? It characterizes the subject, the pronoun they. They were unable to stay in their country anymore in that situation then. Yeah, it's not their permanent characteristic. Torn by contradictory feelings, she accepted the offer. In that situation, she felt torn by some feelings, yeah? So torn by contradictory feelings, she accepted the offer. The attribute torn belongs to she. It characterizes the subject, she. A large reward was offered to the rebels' capture, dead or alive. Dead or alive are adjectives that characterize the rebel. And little Adam, scared yet curious, peeped into the hole in the fence. Scared and curious characterize Adam. Sentences like that with loose attributes you will predominantly find in literature. Normally, people don't speak in such sentences. As I have already mentioned, adjectives as attributes can be used not only before the nouns they characterize, but also after those nouns. In this case, they are post-modifiers. As post-modifiers, they can represent a reduced attributive clause or can characterize indefinite pronouns. Let's see. The students involved in the protests were suspended. Involved is the adjective that characterizes the word students. Actually, it is a reduced attributive clause. What students? The students that were involved, right? The people present at their wedding were mostly the bride's friends. Present is the adjective that characterizes the word people, and it's also a reduced attributive clause. What people? The people that were present at their wedding. The authority may do any and all things necessary to carry out the purposes of this title. Again, things that are necessary, a reduced clause, right? Now let's look at some examples where adjectives are used as attributes of indefinite pronouns. For instance, anyone foolish enough will buy into this idea. Anyone is an indefinite pronoun, and foolish is its attribute here. She wants to prepare something special for his birthday. Something special. Something is an indefinite pronoun, and special is its attribute. Do you have anything interesting to watch in the evening? Anything is an indefinite pronoun, and it is characterized by the adjective interesting. And don't worry, there's nothing wrong with the dish. Nothing is an indefinite pronoun that is characterized by the attribute ron. Now, adjectives can be used as predicatives or subject complements if you wish. The room was empty. Don't make noise. Your father is asleep. The music was getting louder. You are the best. He won't help you with the project. He is too busy these days. With time, the paint faded and the crimson wall became pink. The pool is 6 feet deep. This clock is 5 minutes late. Predicative adjectives follow linking verbs and complete the meaning of the clause by describing the subject. So these are all compound predicates. And we see our adjectives are parts of them. So they function as predicatives. They help us describe the subject. That's why they are called subject complements, because they complement subjects. As predicatives, they can be used by themselves, like in the first sentence, the room was empty, or a compound predicate may also contain adverbs. The room was absolutely empty, for example. Now, adjectives can also be part of a compound verbal predicate. In the previous case, we spoke about linking verbs. Here we'll be speaking about all other verbs. Let's see. Your button is hanging loose. The kids were sleeping still when we came. The man stood motionless, as if he were a statue. We were moving slow because of the ice. These seeds lay dormant for almost 10 years. Student safety is our priority. We are happy everyone stayed safe. These are compound verbal predicates, and our adjectives are parts of them. Adjectives can be used as objective predicatives or object complements. Objective predicative follows and modifies a direct object. It can be a noun or an adjective or anything functioning as a noun or as an adjective. Let's first take a look at different types of objective predicatives or object complements, and then we'll speak about adjectives and this function. So, the kids called the cat squirrel. In this sentence, we have a noun as an object complement. This noun is squirrel. So, the object is the cat. The kids called what? The cat. The cat is a direct object. The kids called what? The cat. And squirrel as its complement. Squirrel is a noun. I can't find my glasses anywhere. Here, the adverb anywhere is used as an object complement. I can't find what? My glasses. My glasses is the direct object, and anywhere is its complement. We found the house in good order. We found what? The house is the direct object. In good order is its complement, and it's a prepositional phrase. And in this example, people considered Helen smart. Whom did people consider smart? Helen. Helen is the direct object, and smart is its complement. Smart is an adjective. So here we see an adjective as an object complement. Please pay attention to one detail. We don't say people consider her beautiful. We don't use an adverb in this kind of sentences. We don't say I find the dish deliciously. No, we must use an adjective. People consider her beautiful. I find the dish delicious. Let's take a look at more examples with adjectives as object complements or objective predicatives. We all thought him well educated. So him is the direct object and the adjective well educated is its complement. Amanda used to wear her hair short. Her hair is the direct object and short is its complement. Our neighbors painted their house pink. Some women don't like to have their nails long. The taxi driver made us nervous. The presents made the kids happy. The dog licked its bowl dry. Often adjectives in this role express the result of something, like in the last 5 sentences, yeah? The dog licked its bowl dry. It became dry, yeah? The presents made the kids happy. The kids became happy because of the presents, and so on and so forth. Attributes can function as a subjective predicative. We talked about the subjective predicative constructions in this video when we discussed participle, and also in this lesson on the infinitive. If you want to learn more information about the subjective predicative constructions, you can watch those lessons. Generally speaking, we can divide the subjective predicative constructions in those that contain verbals and those that have no verbal parts. For example, Jane was seen to leave the concert. Was seen to leave is the subjective construction with an infinitive. To leave. They were heard talking in German. Were heard talking in German is the subjective participial construction. But also subjective constructions can have non-verbal second parts. For instance, she will be appointed the principal. The room has been painted white. The king's sons were raised Christian. The canaries were finally set free. These are all subjective constructions with non-verbal second components. In the first one, she will be appointed the principal, we have a noun, the principal, and this will be appointed the principal is the subjective predicative construction. In the last three examples, we have adjectives in these structures. Has been painted white, or were raised Christian, or were finally set free. Adjectives here are used as subjective predicatives. Let's look at more examples with adjectives in this role. The evening sky was tinged red and purple. Was tinged red and purple is a subjective predicative construction, and adjectives red and purple are its parts. The walls of the hall were once painted blue. Were once painted blue is the subjective predicative construction, and blue is an adjective. I couldn't shut the door because its hinge was torn loose from the wall. Suddenly the door to the house was flung open. Alice has just had her hair dyed raven black. They were set adrift in a small boat. Please let me know if you would like to have a more detailed lesson on different types of predicative constructions. Adjectives can also function as object complements to clauses. When a noun follows a direct object with a clause with a transitive verb, it functions as an object complement. Let's now see how that works with clauses. We consider what he did stupid. So what he did is an object clause, and stupid is its complement. The complement of the object clause, what he did. I find what she says reasonable. What she says is an object clause, and reasonable is its complement. He thought what they dreamt of pathetic. What they dreamt of is an object clause, and pathetic is an object complement. Basically, these complements are reduced clauses. Let me paraphrase the sentences for you. We consider what he did was stupid. I find what she says reasonable. He thought what they dreamt of was pathetic. Now, adjectives that are used in the predicative function may require an object. The latter can be expressed by nouns with prepositions, by infinitives, by participles, or by object clauses. Let me illustrate. Michael wasn't ready. The adjective ready is used predicatively here. It is not followed by anything. It's just Michael wasn't ready. Ready is the predicative, and that's it. This sentence, Michael wasn't ready to go, contains an additional component, the infinitive to go. Together, wasn't ready to go, form a compound predicate. And this to go is the object to predicative adjective ready. And this object is expressed by the infinitive. Michael wasn't ready for the lesson. Here, the object to the predicative adjective is for the lesson. A noun with a preposition. Let's look at a different set of examples. Olga was busy. The adjective busy is used predicatively and is not followed by any objects. Olga was busy with her kids. The object to predicative adjective busy is expressed by a noun with a preposition. Olga was busy doing her home assignment. The object to the predicative adjective busy is expressed by a participial clause. And Olga was too busy to answer the phone call. The object to the predicative adjective busy is expressed here by an infinitive phrase.
Another function that adjectives can perform in a sentence is the function of an adverbial modifier. Here we'll actually be talking about reduced adverbial clauses of time and condition. Let's see. When ripe, mulberries are sweet. So the adjective ripe is actually a part of a reduced adverbial clause when they are ripe. This is an adverbial clause of time. When they are ripe, mulberries are sweet. If necessary, 4 people can sleep in this room. This is a reduced adverbial clause, but of condition. If it is necessary, 4 people can sleep in this room. Similarly, if possible, let me know as soon as the workers arrive. The adjective possible here is a part of a reduced subordinate clause, namely, if it is possible. When ready to order, press the button on your table. When you are ready to order, press the button on your table, right? And he does not seek to position himself in regard to the writers he admires, whether dead or alive. Whether they are dead or alive. Again, a reduced adverbial clause of condition. Another type of reduced clauses where we can find adjectives is attributive subordinate clauses, and previously I spoke about loose attributes, so this is actually it. Yeah, let's take a look at more examples. Unable to utter a single word, James left the room. The adjective unable is the attribute of James. Yeah, it characterizes James. Red in the face from embarrassment, Martha stared at the new student. Red describes Martha. What kind of person she was at that moment. Always ready to fight, his motto is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It's an interesting case. The attribute ready here belongs to the possessive adjective his. He found her on the staircase, sad but nevertheless beautiful. Her eyes brimmed with tears. We have 2 loose attributes here, sad and beautiful, and they characterize her, another possessive adjective. Too self-assured to notice us, Jeremy rushed down from the stage to the thunderous applause from the audience. The adjective self-assured is a loose attribute that characterizes the subject, Jeremy, and busy with errands and family affairs, Francesca didn't even have time to wash her hair. Busy is a loose attribute that characterizes the subject, Francesca. Finally, adjectives can be used independently. Where can we find them used independently? In exclamatory sentences, of course. How wonderful, or how nice of you, terrible, awesome. In exclamatory sentences, we use not adverbs but adjectives, and their adjectives can be used absolutely independently. Please note that we don't say how wonderfully, we don't use adverbs. In exclamatory sentences, we use adjectives, so we should say how wonderful, and not how nicely of you, but how nice of you. That's all for today. I hope this lesson was useful and you managed to learn something new about adjectives in English. If you have any questions to me, please leave them down below. Subscribe to this channel, support me if you can here, and see you in the next lesson.